And then I do a line UF, and the line UF is simply just transferring the items from the sales order window to the purchase order window, and I'm also transferring, in this case, the quantity. You can imagine that you have complete control over these macros as well, so you can run different. So just a quick sample of this is if we go to document here, and in this case I put in that it was not the fee item, so I can say transfer to purchase. It will then do the first pass, put in the data on header level, and then it will do the line pass for each single line. In this case we had 4 lines, but we only transferred 3 of them because one of them, the fee item, was excluded by our SQL condition. So this was essentially that we did some header data and some line. You can also use these in other scenarios. For example, if you wanted to do something on the line level here, you could be that you had a free text that always need to be in uppercase. You could simply just do a macro on line level saying every single line I want to do an uppercase of the free text field. Another thing we can do is we can gather data about our lines. It could be that I wanted to find out how much is the combined total of all these lines and do something in regard to that. It could also be I wanted to check if any of the lines did not have a unit price. There's very different conditions on doing this. One sample of this is I can, for example, go in and say, if I don't forget some unit prices on certain lines, I can check this. I have a check 0 lines button up here. In my case, I'm using function buttons in order to do this, but it of course could have been on the update regard, because it's just a universal function, and universal functions can be run on both function buttons and on B1 validations. So in this case, if I press check 0 lines, it will come back to me and say the following lines do not have a unit price, 1 and 2. And the way this works is if I go to the check here, you will again see something similar to my previous. I'm in this case checking for if my unit price is equal 0, then it's actually a line I want to react on. I don't want to react on any universal function in this case, but I'm applying a final result. In this case I'm using a special line num keyword. I could also use the normal dynamic syntax if I wanted to, for some reason, get some data about the item code. I could do that. So this is just what I'm collecting about the line, and I can then do different things about the data. I can append it. So if I find line 1, I can then, when I find a new line, append it to the same data. So imagine this was the final result in memory right now as we go along, and if we find a line 3, it will append that as well to the result. We can also ignore if a previous value exists. That meaning if the final result already have a value, we don't want to add that value again, we can just ignore it. We can also override it, so it will always be the last line that actually made this have the value. We can do a count, so we don't need to put in a final value result, we just count how many times we actually hit this. Could be if some amount of lines have a specific condition, something special should happen. We can find the minimum value, the maximum value, or the sum of the data. We will see the sum in one second as well. So you can control how the result should be collected as we go along. And also in my case, I had that when I pressed the button, it told me which lines. But if I were only interested in just giving back if there was just one, I could, because if I had 100 lines here, it would take some time to loop through every single line. And if I just wanted to block the user, if just one of the lines didn't have a unit price, I could do that by simply going and say break loop. As soon as I hit this, I should stop my loop. I don't care about the rest of the lines. So in that case, it would now just say the first line. Then I could put in a value for the first line, do the check again, and then it will go to the next line until I actually have my full data. So the way I react to the final result is in the final result conditions down here. A final result can have a condition. It could be that we don't want to execute a final result. In our case with transferring lines, we didn't do that. We could also say we always need to execute it, no matter how our final result is. It could be that if we actually have a value in our final result, we don't want to check against what that specific is, but if it just have a value. Or finally, if a condition is met. In our case, it's just if it's not empty. We don't care about these right now. We will check that in another sample. And in our case, we just want to write a message of which lines didn't have a unit price. And for that, we can use the special keyword in line loop in universal functions being called from a line loop final result. We can use this ll_result.string or .number in order to work with the final result we actually collected, because I collected 1 and 2 for the 2 lines missing, and that was the thing I put in to the following lines to not have a unit price. You can again do different final results, do multiple final results if you want to. The final condition I want to show, or the final line loop, is, in this case, I have a conditional add fee. Let me put in my value like this. Before I want to show you what happens is, what we have actually made here is, it is made so if I don't have a fee item and my quantity is below 20, it should ask me if I want to add a fee item. So if I press it, it calculated that these quantities in total was below 20, and if I wanted to add a fee item, this is actually a macro giving me this, and giving back I can put in the fee item. So the way it works is, again, I have a line loop with 38 and a condition where I just work with every single line, giving that is not a text line. Then I say go. I want to work with the line, and I'm doing a sum of every single quantity. This is again, quantity is column 11, so I'm summing the value of each line, 38.11.number. And then I'm saying that if my condition is met and my result as a number is less than 20, I want to react to that. And in this case, I'm using a macro, but it could be auto-added if I want to. And again, you have the complete control of what the macro should do. It could be that it should launch a report. It could be that it should block that you are not allowed to add orders with a quantity below 11. And I'm using quantity. It could be any of the lines. This concludes this session. For training material, please go to service.boyum-it.com/education. Or if you want a free demo of the product, go to license.boyum-it.com/b1up. If you want to contact us, you can do it either by our sales email or our support email. Thank you for attending.